Hi, welcome to my podcast. Today I have two guests with me. I have Catherine Serna on
Hey.
my left, and on my right I have Rafa
Hello.
Serna on my left. On my right. And today we're going to be talking about a very important topic that I feel is not talked about enough. Um, and that is the unrealistic standards that social media has put on us and how it's affected our mental health. And yeah. Okay, that's fine. Okay, I don't know what should we start with. So, okay, this is the second part. Now I'm going to be talking about. Okay. Okay, so the first topic that I want to cover is parenting standards. Now, this one is going to be like a little,
Controversial.
yes, if you will, just because obviously different ethnicities, cultures, all that stuff. So yeah, what do you guys like? What are one major thing that you guys find a little bit over the top when it comes to the new
Oh,
parenting standards?
I know exactly what actually.
What?
And this has
I'm
been, I've thought
interested.
about this recently a lot. Because obviously there's a lot of people now that are changing like their sex quite literally.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
now I feel like people are kind of projecting that onto kids, and now they're having like 4 year olds like changing their gender and like stuff like
No,
that.
yeah,
Which
right.
I honestly don't agree with that because they're like kids. You know what I mean? I don't think it's the time for that yet. They don't have the mental capacity to really understand what they're even choosing. You know what I mean?
Right,
Because
for
it's
sure.
not anything like against like them choosing or anything, but it's kind of like letting them at a certain age. And I'm not talking about like letting them play with like letting like your son play with dolls. Like no.
Right.
I'm talking about them like literally like changing their whole lifestyle at
Yes, the
four
way they
years old.
dress, talk is gay. Like I would not see myself projecting my like sexual attractions onto my kid. Because first off, I feel like that in itself is a little like bizarre because they are quite literally kids who don't even know how to do simple multiplication, division. And we're here worried about if they find themselves a girl or a boy or something else. And honestly, I'm going off topic.
or anything. I think I don't know about it myself either, but I think now that we have a slightly better understanding of what it means about gender, sex, and whatever, a lot of people that maybe on a later age found themselves, oh, maybe I was always gay, lesbian, etc., etc. Now, in a way, they're overcorrecting probably onto their kids, and
Right. Oh, I
while
see.
maybe their heart's in the right place, but they again overcorrecting. That's they need to calm down a little bit.
No, yeah, for sure.
No, they definitely take it too far. And I think that also has to do with one thing that Kim and I were talking about a little bit ago, which were people focusing too much on labels.
Yeah, I feel
Okay.
like maybe it's because of the way I was raised. I don't know. But the gentle parenting, like I feel that in a way, it is. It's good on how people are able to communicate their emotions more, but I feel that it does not. It's how do I say like
People spoiling their kids, probably,
no, it's
or
like no, it's like when like let's say I have a kid, right? And they're screaming in my face and I'm just like, okay, like I don't appreciate you screaming.
But
Let's tone down your voice or whatever. Like for me as a kid, if I were just to be screaming at my mom's face, like that would never slide. Like it, either I get, like spanked or whatever, but and I'm not saying that I like got hit very often because I was like a good kid, like um I thoughts on gentle parenting.
I do agree with gentle parenting to a certain extent. It's also like, okay, if the kid's yelling at me and I'm trying to reason with it and it's that itself is not working, then yeah, I'm gonna change tactics, you know what I mean? But I feel like that being the first, like your first response is also teaching the kid for them, like for that to also be their first response because that's what they're learning from you because you are in charge, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, like, gentle parenting, I think, is also, I don't know. I honestly have like very mixed emotions because I agree with what you say. Because some people do take it too far. Like sometimes a kid does need like.
Well, I'm not like
Uh,
saying like beat the child if it
No,
doesn't listen,
but
but
it's like what my
definitely
parents did.
like I'm not gonna just let my kid smack me across the face and then
Like my
be
parents
like,
only once
yo,
hit
that
me.
really hurt me, and my heart did not appreciate that. Like, hell no. Like, no, you don't slap me. And there's like gonna be like it doesn't have to be me hitting him back because obviously like that's the other
Not
thing
even.
too.
It's just
I
with the
don't agree with
tone.
hitting, but I do feel that the tone that you set and the thing a gentle tone that does not work all the time. Like
I don't know. I honestly have like very mixed emotions because I agree with what you say. Because some people do take it too far. Like sometimes a kid does need like.
well, I'm not like
Uh,
saying like beat the child if it
No,
doesn't listen,
but
but
it's like what my
definitely
parents did.
like I'm not gonna just let my kid smack me across the face and then
Like my
be
parents
like,
only once
yo,
hit
that
me.
really hurt me, and my heart did not appreciate that. Like, hell no. Like, no, you don't slap me, and there's like gonna be like it doesn't have to be me hitting him back because obviously like that's the other
Not
thing
even.
too.
It's just
I
with the
don't agree with
tone.
hitting, but I do feel that the tone that you set and the thing a gentle tone that does not work all the time. Like you do have to scream, you do have to be stern, and that's what I like. That's where I'm like, yeah, I do because even as like an adult now, like I appreciate the way my parents raised me. Whether it was like had to spank me because I was being a menace to society and like was not listening. And honestly, like I wouldn't I wouldn't take that experience back because I learned like, yo, if I act this way, like it's not gonna be no, oh, don't do that. No, it's gonna be a big situation. So I'm not gonna act like that. And I feel like that's why a lot of teenagers nowadays have no respect and no sort of decorum at all on how they act, where they act, and it's
Being
due to
inconsiderate.
the parenting. It really is, yeah. But what about you, Rafa? How do you feel
I,
about gentle parenting, I guess?
I mean, I think there should be a line. I'm pretty much agreeing with what you both said too. A line between being patient and gentle and being firm. Patient but
Stern. Like not necessarily
Right.
screaming, but stern for sure is
firm. Firm,
needed.
stern, yeah.
Because that is also how you're showing that you're in charge.
And I think, actually, I don't think it has anything really less to do with being in charge, but showing respect. Like you don't have to be in charge, but you can still get a lot of respect. Like having
Yeah, but I
respect.
Well,
mean,
no.
talking about a parent like that, talking to someone else, yes, respect. But as a parent, no,
Like, you also have to
are in
respect
charge
your
because
parents,
and
too.
that's
No,
the other
yeah.
thing too is that I think people are forgetting that there is such thing as someone who is in charge of you and who is the boss of you. You're always going to have a boss. And so to start that young, to start that understanding like, hey, there's someone in charge of me that I have to listen to and I like have to follow the orders that they give me. That does help in the future when you do get a professional job. And that's the thing too, like obviously there's newer jobs that are like, like influencers or whatever, like that you don't have to really necessarily like follow strict orders, but you still have to follow orders. You still have to follow like protocols on what your managers, and that like when you starting young with your parents, that if there's someone in charge, you show mutual respect. That's
It's
where
being
the
able
parenting
to
comes in.
accept that there are authority figures and that
Yeah,
they're
there's
in that
someone in
position for
charge.
a reason too,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
You said,
I
all
mean,
right, sounds
yeah,
good to
I
me.
mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, no, for sure.
I got nothing really because I haven't really thought of the whole gentle parenting at all. So I got nothing, honestly.
No, yeah, no worries. Um, and then, oh, what about the diets? How do you guys like parent like? Because I know that's one major thing now is like, oh, what do you feed your kid? You know, and especially because on TikTok there's like
Like
a
the
bunch
meal
of
prepping and
creators
all
of
that.
yeah, I'm gonna make my kid lunch or like come make my 1-year-old lunch. And honestly, like there are two influencers that I don't necessarily watch, but I know about them just because they're more like out there now. But one of them's Nara Smith, and
Oh my gosh.
I
I
don't.
honestly love her.
Yes, I was like, I don't know if you guys know, but Nara Smith. Basically, she makes all of her like meals for her kids and her husband from scratch. Like, if her like one video is like, oh, my kids woke up and wanted a peanut butter jelly sandwich, and she made the peanut butter, the jelly, the bread, all of that
She
from
made
scratch.
bubble gum for her sister-in-law
Yeah.
from scratch.
And just because there's a lot of toxins in the food nowadays. But then there's like this other creator, and she's like, make like breakfast or lunch with me for my 2-year-old. And then it's like chips and donuts and like microwave dinner or whatever. And everybody in the comments are like bashing her, like, oh, like how can you feed your? But she's like, this is only a little part of what you guys see. And it was like it's the same way for Nara too. Like she gets negative, like, oh, they have to wait like 2 to 3 business days to get their food, you know, whatever. But
But the thing with Nara Smith though is because also the reason she does cook from scratch a lot is because of her eczema.
well, yeah, yeah.
And
But I'm saying like she doesn't change her meals like for her kids because she has eczema. Her kids don't have eczema. You
oh
know
no,
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
that's one thing she did talk about. She was like, no, my kids are eating whatever me and Lucky are eating.
Yeah.
Specifically. And honestly, I think that's also the problem that parents are making their kids picky eaters
Yeah.
because they
I-
don't like expand
guilty. Guilty.
their taste
Me.
buds, if that makes any sense, you know?
No, yeah.
Mm,
What about you?
well, on the first one, the one that makes her own stuff, I think it's pretty cool. Like, what's eczema actually?
Yeah.
What's
Uh,
that?
Because she
It's-
has like a skin condition
yeah.
where like it like you like
Irritation.
dries.
dry
Well, of course,
skin.
when it comes to that, then I'm pretty sure she has to anyway. And I think it's pretty cool that she is, from my understanding, sharing that with her family. I think that's good.
Yeah, social
good, nice.
media or family.
And
yeah.
on the other one, from what I'm hearing, I think it's very more like a joke, honestly.
Yeah,
But,
well, that's
But
the thing.
it's
Like both
not.
of them are joking, but in the same time they're serious. Like, and that's what I'm like saying. Like Nara, she's like, oh yeah, my kids want peanut butter jelly, and she makes it from scratch. But obviously, dough takes like 2 hours to rise, so like that's gonna take a full day. You know what I'm saying? Where the
So-
other girl is like, she posted one video and it was like, it wasn't even that bad, but everyone was like, oh, how could you do it? So she took that, and honestly, it's also a marketing like thing for sure, but it's also like that may be marketing to them, but for other people, like they live that, like they either live from scratch or they live like donuts and stuff like that. So
And I mean, I think it really depends on like your living situation because, like you said, like some people don't have a choice and have to live like that. But
yeah, for sure.
I feel like it's only like really a problem if you're living like that when you have the option to not, when you have all the resources to live a healthier life. Like, honestly, like, it's for
Yeah.
your benefit, for your kids' benefit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when it's really a problem.
For me personally, I do like how she makes everything from scratch. It's inspired me. As far as it being an unrealistic standard, like
I don't think
it's
she
what you
makes it a
said,
standard,
it's like-
honestly.
No, it doesn't sound like it to me either. Like
Yeah.
she's just documenting what she does, but not as a standard either. Of course, it's nice. Like when I make my own cakes, I feel good. That's why I like doing it, but not all the time. And when we cook, it's like, I mean, yes, it feels nice. We like what we make, but either way, it's not. Nowadays, it's not a standard though. Unfortunately.
But I think it's the problem where people are taking it, they're almost getting offended because they're not capable of doing what she does, you know? And like they attack her for that, for, oh, like you're making, like,
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
she's
Jealousy.
people are making
Basically.
it look like she's putting a standard. And that's
Yeah.
where the standard yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess when, especially in this online space, you're gonna make someone angry, and maybe yes, people might be a little bit jealous that she's making that while they can't. And they need to accept it that they may not be able to reach that, at least not yet, and suck it up. Basically, just suck it up. Sorry.
No.
It's unfortunate
Yes,
that you
suck it up.
won't be able to do that, but there are
Do
healthier
better.
ways to alleviate with that anger. Alleviate, yes. I'm super fancy today.
oh.
Yes. Big words for the podcast.
And honestly, like, I think that goes to, like, talk about how bitter people are now, I feel, honestly.
Yeah. 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 Oh, I forgot. I can't.
We
Well,
call
maybe
them
I can
doomers.
cuss. Doomers. Yes. Okay. So the next one is the unrealistic standards for beauty or lack of. No, but yes, there's a lot of beauty standards. That one I can first, most obvious, BBLs. Yes, I know.
What's BBL?
I might
Brazilian butt lift.
get
Ah.
canceled for this, but I feel like they have set such an unrealistic standard for so many women, young girls, because it's become so common for just everyone to have a BBL. Like natural bodies are on a down low, like they're rare. They're rare to find nowadays. And these girls are seeing these women on social media or even like in person with these BBLs, and they're like, oh, like that's how I need to be, and that's what men like nowadays. And honestly, for me personally, I do not like BBLs. I don't necessarily like, if you have one, cool, you know what I'm saying? Like if you can maintain one, that's great, like get it. But as far as it being the beauty standard right now, especially for your body, I don't see it as realistic at all.
The problem is when they lie about their bodies being natural. Like, what's the point? Because that is what's affecting, like, all of the teenagers' mental health, especially now. Like, all the actors, influencers, saying, like, oh, like, I've never gotten work done. But come on now. Like, we all saw them
Yeah.
change. Like, we saw.
And mental health has to do a lot with your insecurities about yourself, you know? So if there's all these women now getting BBLs and, you know, like, oh, I am 100 pounds and can't gain weight, like I need to go and get one so that a man can be attracted to me. And honestly, like that does go with your insecurities, but it has like affected mental health for women, at least, for sure, because they don't body dysmorphia hits. Like,
Yeah, because I feel like
nothing.
there's two spectrums to the beauty standards. There's like the BBL um, standard, and then there's like the eating disorder standard, like the skinny bones
Yeah.
that people are normalizing, like normalizing eating a bowl of lettuce.
Yeah, girl dinner. Yeah, that's oh yeah,
Girl
that's another
dinner.
girl
Oh my
dinner.
gosh.
And I
That
feel
was a
like
big problem, honestly.
because that is very unrealistic in the way that like you are not eating an almond.
But I feel like the
for 2
problem was that
days,
it
you know?
was realistic. You know what I mean? Or like,
Well, it was real for them, but to do it, it's very unrealistic to.
oh no,
That's
yeah, but
not-
like they're projecting that, like them posting that on the internet. It's basically like when people like are saying like, don't
God.
post your sick bodies, you know?
Oh, yeah.
No, yeah.
Because
That's
that
pretty
also
bad.
that's also a problem. Like girls with like eating disorders that are posting their bodies, being like, oh, like or even like saying they wish they could like look back, like look like that again. And all the comments are like, oh my gosh, like me too. When I was 100 pounds, I might have like looked sick, but I was at my
Oops,
happiest,
sorry.
like this and this. But like no, like they
Yeah.
were actually miserable, and they're normalizing being miserable in order to be skinny.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, when it, I do want to circle back to the Brazilian butt lifting.
Yes.
But I was talking about that now. For those of us online, recently about either being, especially being a bit overweight. Since online you can pretty much be anyone at any time. Uh, Basically just the mentioning of portraying an overweight person, especially a woman, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Very, very bad. Unnecessarily toxic, just berating, and it's like by doing that, what does that say to anyone going through through those comments to a video? What was it? I think there was a Disney short actually about that, about an overweight, not even a kid, like a teenager, who wants to be a ballet dancer. And throughout the short, it's just all about just getting over and just doing what she wants to do, and it's good, right? And it was bad. The comments was just awful. Like it's clearly that they've never touched grass in their lives, honestly.
I feel like
because
so many people, yeah, nowadays.
because and that sucks because it's like, how are they able to accept the fact that these people exist? You know, like these people exist. They are living, breathing people. And while is it the healthiest choice? No, of course not.
Right.
Like, look at me honestly. I know I'm not the pinnacle of masculinity, but like,
Bella Hadid.
I exist. I hate you. I exist. I'm just trying to live. I'm going to work every day. Well, now I am now.
He said,
I am
we
now.
back at it.
But I try to go work, and like seeing that kind of does affect me too. Like, am I not allowed to exist? Am I not allowed to do what I want?
And I think it's the
Right.
problem where a lot of our generation, they really don't touch any grass. Like they really do stay indoors,
No grass
hiding
out there.
behind the screen, behind the internet, and projecting all their insecurities onto the internet, like any other strangers, anybody
And that's
that
because
can take
social
it.
media is such a huge like platform that is being used by teenagers, kids,
Millions.
adults,
All
like
ages.
everybody. And then everybody is getting a taste of.
Because I mean, I know this isn't even one of our topics, and like I'm just gonna like talk about it real quick. But even like all these kids that are getting like sexually exploited online,
Oh my god.
that's also a big
Yes.
issue on Snapchat, Instagram, Telegram, everything.
Anywhere.
No, yeah.
That's
No, definitely. And I think too, like people are comparing their older selves to like this 16-year-old on like Instagram and this influencer. Like, okay, for me personally, I can say like there have been moments where I'm like, oh, okay, this YouTuber, she's the same age as me, and all she is living in New York in like this skyscraper apartment, 3K a month is her rent, like, and she's just doing like these vlogs, like, oh, I'm gonna go get my hair done today, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, how how are we the same age and you are living like
A totally
A
different
a
totally-
life.
whole different life. Yeah. And I'm like, and then I'm like, oh, I need to be there. But honestly, for me, that would be unrealistic because I don't have the same like resources or ability to
Or
do
luck.
that. You
And
know,
I'm really
like,
glad you brought
yeah,
that up
Or
because
luck.
now a lot of people don't want to work, put in the effort to
Yeah,
gain
no.
actual careers because they just want to be influencers and all this.
Yeah,
But even then,
yes.
being an influencer, like, it's not forever. The money you're making, unless you don't properly like invest it or save it,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna lose it all in like 10, 20 years.
No, for
Like,
sure. And honestly,
and
it's
even
not a
then,
secure job.
at
Like
all.
as a career, you know, like a doctor. Okay, like if I get fired from this job, there's a likely chance that there's going to be another job opening. But for social media, if I get can't, that's it. End of
No,
career.
and even then, when you apply to jobs or anything, when they do a background check on you
Mm.
and you
It's
getting
all-
canceled,
That, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But
all.
yeah. So like body,
and now like body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which can happen at any age, at any point, regardless
Yeah.
of body type. And we talked a little bit about how people portray overweight people. But on the other side, I guess you guys already mentioned that, where being skinny isn't great either.
Right.
no,
For
because
sure.
like starving
Scary.
yourself, you have no energy, nothing.
Yeah,
like
you're
you feel like a
literally
walking
killing
ghost.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
And people try, even though I don't go on social media all that often, of course I go YouTube, but like it's recommended to basically avoid all the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a little bit where people were not glorifying, just like putting a little bit on a pedestal these skinny figures.
No,
And
like the
how-
thin
No, yeah,
Thinspo?
for sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thinspo
yeah.
was a big.
Like,
Like
unless you weren't like
Yeah.
basically.
thing, actually, yeah. I don't know if you guys remember that. Maybe.
Wait, what?
possibly.
Thinspo?
I don't. That doesn't ring the bell for me.
Explain to him.
No,
Explain to
Tumblr
him.
and
Yeah,
Thinspo.
Tumblr.
Oh my goodness.
The way I still have Tumblr though. Shh, don't tell anyone. No, I'll be at night. I'll be like scrolling the little box. But yeah, definitely. I think just the like there is a good weight that you're supposed to be, but honestly, because
It's
none
because
of
we're
us
not normalizing healthy. We're just normalizing looks.
and that goes back to the beauty standards.
Beauty
of-
standards.
and that's
Because
also
it's like
shows how
nobody cares
lustful,
how
like,
you
we
got
are,
there
you know,
at
like-
all or what you're doing to maintain
Yeah.
that body. They only care that that's the body you have.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because if you like are walking down the street and someone's like, "Oh, you're pretty," you know, like they do not know that, "Oh, I just spent like 2 hours on skincare before I walked out the house." You know what I'm saying? They just like, "Oh, I see a pretty face." But that skincare costs like $300, you know what I'm saying? And
that.
okay, so like moving on to the next topic is actually like economic unrealistic standards. Yes. And obviously we are young adults here, so
It's the trenches.
trenches, if you
I need
will.
to buy a monster after this.
I don't know, you have $3.
I got 10.
Oh.
The way we remember when we bought the Celsius? I think it was like 2 days ago, and we bought a Celsius from here.
the Starbucks.
$4 for 1 Celsius. I was
2 Celsius were
I was
$9 and like
thrown.
80 cents. Like
I was
what?
like, that is unreal. Absolutely not. I mean, I paid for it, but like $4 is crazy. I don't know.
No,
So-
but then that goes on to like you seeing influencers at your age, like living all these
Yeah.
extravagant lives,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, like you want that so bad, or even just seeing like nepo babies. Like, I'm sorry, but
Okay, yeah, that's another one too. They have definitely set very much an unrealistic way of living for sure. And that's the thing, like unrealistic for some is different than others.
it's
but
their real life for others. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so yeah, like nepo babies, you know, they definitely come from wealth, obviously, and then they end up doing like being a DJ or like just painting or whatever, and they are getting like thousands and millions just because they're a daughter of this specific person.
Yeah.
Or and it's like, oh well, if an art like some random artist like from I don't like here wanted to put out the same music or put out the same sort of art, like they would not get the same amount of money because they don't have
They
that
don't have
platform yet, you know?
the platform or the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And honestly,
Almost all the time, actually.
with
time, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
with things
Yeah,
like that, it's
time.
kind of like I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm honestly more like honestly like you got it like that. I wish that was me, obviously.
No,
But
yeah, for sure. No,
but if you have the option and like the resources and you take them, like you take advantage of the opportunities that you're given, then good for you. But what stresses me out is when those type of people don't take the opportunities that they're giving. Like when they're born with like a silver spoon in their mouth and they're just like the most obnoxious, arrogant, like people with absolutely no talent, because no passion, no talent, because they've absolutely invested no time in finding that, because they just like their passion is like shopping, like you know what I mean, like that's when I think it's like lame,
yeah. And like
when they literally
when they
do
are like
nothing.
just doing nothing, people are like, oh, okay, and they're still living like this lavish life doing nothing, and they're like I need to be up there. But honestly, like that is
My thing is the parents. How can parents like allow their kids to be like that and like still like like sustain their kids?
well, that goes back to the unrealistic parenting standards,
Yeah.
like, and their certain belief. Because honestly, like, my like my parents, they were pretty good, like to us. Honestly, like I did get a lot more opportunities than a lot of kids nowadays, like for sure. And I would never degrade that, but honestly, like there have also been. I mean, I went to a private school, so kids were like coming from Europe, you know, for the summer, and I'm like, oh, like I stayed at my grandma's house, you know, but like at my grandma's house, I was
But you
like
had the time of your
fed. I
life.
had like I was painting, you know, like I had hobbies on the side, but I was definitely like not struggling. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely do think it's like back to the parenting standards. Like, what do you see important? You know. And at that time, like my parents were very much starting their careers, so at that time, like as long as we were taken care of, like that was good, you know. And at that time, like I also took that advantage to not like necessarily learn how to like do a podcast or like learn how to produce music or whatever, but I definitely like learned how to. I think I learned more how to just become an adult as that age, more than like learning. And I think honestly that has helped me way more than learning like a hobby such as producing. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I do feel like it's just how they see it. Like I could, because there was also a time in my life where I did nothing because my parents have then, you know, like hit that part of their career where it's like they're thriving and therefore I am now thriving, you know? And so it's like, okay, that time that I had to take apart, like it was worth it at the end. But also like I then became like, oh, like I don't want to do nothing actually because I have it like that right now. And being able to experience that and then being able to experience it getting taken away, it was like, it's very much like and not taken away because they took it, but just because like you grow up and then you realize like, okay, you don't want to depend on your parents your whole life, you know what I'm saying? So, but I don't know. Yeah.
No, I think we got that spot on, honestly.
Yeah.
No, honestly, one thing, I don't know, because with social media, I feel like it's made people more entitled in a way. Because a lot of things are coming, like mental health is now being more like talked about, and like all these other issues are being like talked about more openly, you know what I mean? Especially on social media. And I feel like that goes to why people feel so entitled. They feel like they know more than their parents now because their parents don't understand them or stuff like that. And that's where a lot of the disrespect comes, you know what I mean? And I think it's also just, or it can be people like just being so angry and just having so much like resentment built up, and like all these like people talking about their issues and that they might even like resonate with, you know what I mean? And in a way it's like validating their issues that they never thought were valid, and then like hearing that, it's like giving them almost like a victim complex if they don't properly.
I think that's like a really good like topic to bring up, and like that can lead into the next thing I wanted to talk about was like sobriety, like that tie and tie together a lot because that's another way that people connect, you know, like,
Yeah.
oh, I have depression, but then it's also like, oh, I smoke weed, you know, and it's like, oh, things that stoners, you know, do, and then it's like, oh yeah, I connect with that in that way, and then, or it's like the negative, like part of sobriety, the withdrawals and all that stuff, and that like the recovery of it in general,
And then it's like people want you to recover but won't support you during the
They
recovery,
won't help
accepting
you
that
with it.
there's like the
exactly.
lows are low.
And especially on social media, you'll see it in the comments like, oh, you look like, you know, like it's a meth head recovering, and it's like, oh, she's on meth, blah, blah, blah. And it's like negative when they're like, oh, I'm 2 days, you know, sober from meth. And it's like, people don't understand the amount of strength and how hard it is to actually become sober. And I'm not saying like, and that's the other thing too. Everyone's like, oh, well, they chose that. They chose
Because
that.
how many people were not able to get sober?
Yeah.
Like the percentage of addicts that are actually able to recover, minimal. Honestly, I'm not sure what it is, but I really don't think it's that high.
Yeah. But, well, yeah, it's very hard to recover. But I think people have also just like downplayed how hard it is.
And I think that
And
even shows in BoJack when the therapist, when he relapses, when he starts drinking again, like how many years? He was like, what, 10, 14 years sober, like around there.
Yeah, and that's the thing too is
And he
sobriety
relapsed.
means like for like you stop forever, like you don't. But then that's where the relapse comes in, and that's where mental health is affected.
Actually, I think when it comes to like getting over addiction, you just mentioned it with BoJack. Right now we've talked a lot about social media, but we haven't talked almost anything about just media in general, movies, shows, books, etc., etc. And I have seen when it comes to when someone going sober from being drunk or cocaine addicts, etc., etc. I have noticed that with these characters, they can go for like a week, but when they go back to whatever substance, they are suddenly like pushed away, without realizing that going 1 week, especially with hardcore drugs like meth, going a week without that is a victory in of itself.
For
And
sure.
It's baby steps, honestly.
we should accept that these things, yes, like you said, these are hard, and we should help them and celebrate what little victories, because it's gonna take a while, a long time.
Well,
years
it's
even.
gonna take forever.
Well, I mean,
sobriety.
well, maybe, but you
Yeah.
get what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, definitely. It's in movies and the media platform.
I mean,
in
like
general,
Saltburn. If like we're really talking movie Saltburn,
I've never
everybody.
seen that one actually.
I've also never seen it.
Oh, I was like, I've never seen that movie.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but like on TikTok, they're all doing the trend where I think it's Jacob Elordi, I think is his name, where he's like dancing in like the kitchen, and then he just like I think does like cocaine on like his kitchen table or something like that. But the scene is like him like first like starting like really happy, like dancing, whatever, and then like he reaches the table, he like does it, and then he just keeps dancing around the room, right? And a lot of people are like recreating that, and they're like, and I think it's also because they're putting drugs everywhere too. So
Yeah, I mean, drugs definitely have a huge impact on our society nowadays, and um, yeah, honestly, as someone, I'm just gonna be 100% honest. Like, as someone who did struggle with addiction for other things, like, it's hard just being sober from it and staying sober from it. Like, it's a lot of work, and there were moments where I would relapse, and then it would. That's the other thing. It's like the relapse. It's not the same amount that you started with. You go harder every time, or at least me personally, like, it was harder.
because if you're
Every
gonna
single
relapse, you gotta make it
time.
worth it.
Like, for sure, like, that was the mentality, and that definitely is negative. Like, and it's because a lot of people also like kill themselves off of drugs. They overdose a lot, and that is put on social media. Like, I've seen, especially on Twitter and stuff, or X now that they're calling it.
Twitter,
But
still.
that, like, it's a very dark place. Like, on Twitter, you can find videos
People getting
uncensored
decapitated.
of everything, and
Right.
like, you see these people overdosing, and they're just there, and it's like, then like, if me, someone who's scrolling through it, and I see that, like, that is gonna affect me mentally immediately, because I was like, damn, like, it's like a
No.
memory, or like, just a flashback. So
Yeah, so they're just posting that willingly, not even like a document, just like, oh yeah, look at this crackhead, whatever.
exactly, yeah.
Exactly. That's what
Like,
they're
there
doing.
was this one video that went viral on Twitter, and it was this mom, and she had her baby here, and she was high. I don't know if it was like off meth or heroin, something like that. And she was sitting on the porch, and she had her other kid in front of her, and her other kid, like, he looked maybe 5, 6, but he, like, full on was like slapping her face, and she was so high off of that, like, and he was like, like, wake up, and that, like, video went viral. But honestly, like, I adopted. I'm adopted, and so my mom also used to be a drug addict, and so, like, even though I don't remember a lot, like, because trauma, but it, like, it's just seeing that video, boom, a flashback. Like, oh, like, a parent caring about drugs more than
Like,
the
even
child.
if you didn't remember,
It's
it can
like,
trigger the memory.
yeah, of the principle behind it. Like, this mom's choosing drug, and then obviously, as like, someone who is a recovering addict, like, it's like, oh, damn, like, I understood that, but then that takes the toll of my mental health in a negative way, because I'm now not thinking of rainbows and cupcakes. I'm thinking about the actual, like, realness of the world, and how it's actually gone to rocks and sand and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'd say we're in a pretty sensitive part of our life, of the world, basically, right
Yeah,
now.
And I think that's another problem. I think people are becoming really sensitive. Me being people, honestly.
Too.
But
I could have told you that. No, I'm kidding. I love her.
we all
Love
could
you,
have.
sister.
We all could have.
but it's like at least I'm mainly able to like keep it to myself, being able like, you know what, like, yeah, that hurt me, but I know that I'm letting that hurt me too, because that's also what people don't realize, that they have the power to allow things to hurt them or not. You know? And I mean, and that's one thing I'm currently learning, that I'm right now being like, you know what, not everything has to hurt me. And especially if it's people's intention to hurt me, why am I going to let them hurt me? Come on now. Letting them win can't happen.
Never.
When it comes to the world being a bit more sensitive, I disagree and agree at the same time, because when I think of them, I'm thinking of, again, with teenagers, young people that mostly on the richer spoiled side, that probably having a. It's mom. Oh fuck.
Mom's calling.
Yeah. Anyway. Wait. Anyway. Yes. So sorry. When it comes to the whole being sensitive thing, now that social media is out there, we know what's going on around the world now. That we now, and there's a lot of horrible stuff going on.
Right.
And I think that does boost in a way that people in the right mind should think that, hey, this is awful, let's try to do something about it. And in some cases, while intentions are good, it kind of backfires. That's one thing. And the other side, when it comes, again, with the sensitivity, maybe it's when it comes to, if you're like in your 25, from 25 and onward, if you're like super sensitive, you have no excuse. What is wrong with you, honestly? But anywhere before then,
Wait.
honestly, I'm sorry, but you need to. There's a lot of unresolved things that need to be worked out,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. A lot of people now don't have. There are things that are unresolved, either because they don't want to talk about it, or they can't talk about it, they feel ashamed, or they don't have the money to.
That's
and
another
that
thing on
leads
social
to
media,
the
honestly, like
ne-
guilt,
Yeah.
anger, resentment, shame, like
Yeah.
all these emotions. Like,
Yeah, and that like leads to the next one actually of the education on mental health. Like a lot of education on mental health is now done on TikTok. You know what I'm saying? Instead of like
I think it's the
actual
problem
research.
that people take it from TikTok instead of the research, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to believe that ideally they will learn it from TikTok and then go on to research a little bit about it. Read up on it.
And honestly, like that's the
Ideally.
other thing too. There's doctors and actual lawyers who are on social media and they do like explain different mental health and stuff. But I feel like there's a lot of self-diagnosed
Yeah.
people, and it's because their education on mental health is strictly coming from TikTok or
It's the
strictly
not
coming from
fact-checking.
one source. Like you have to have multiple sources of, and like, yeah, just the education on mental health is a serious thing that people don't educate themselves on, honestly.
And when
Enough.
but also when it comes to educating ourselves, it can be kind of hard. A lot of terminology that we don't understand, and like I don't know, maybe like 10 minutes going through Wikipedia to learn what the meaning of one word is. And it happened to me like twice because it's kind of long. And I don't like doing that anymore. But at the very least, we should like refrain from saying stuff. Just in case I'm gonna not say anything about certain topics.
It's because in a way where like people are like searching for like validation, and just like the minute they find it, even if it's not true, they're not gonna want to believe that or find that out. Like they just hear like, oh, like validation, perfect, like this is it. You know what I mean? Instead of
Right.
fact checking it, because it could totally be a lie what they're saying. Because I mean, come on, a lot of things are lies, or like a lot of misinformation being spread in general.
Misinformation
Yeah.
or misunderstanding of certain information.
Oh, that one.
That yeah.
That.
Because then people think they're all the experts because they saw 5 TikTok videos on it
They're
in
like,
a row.
No, listen. Yeah. Let me tell you something. No, yeah. Definitely. And I think all of these like topics that we discussed are a really good way of explaining how some of these things are just unrealistic and we shouldn't be
Not everything should be
overthinking it.
normalized.
Yeah, overthinking it or normalizing it because it does have a huge effect on everyone personally with their mental health issues.
And like once again with the labels, like honestly, like sometimes labels aren't even like fully correct or like fully applicable. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, everybody's situations, everybody's experiences, the way you feel after like an experience, like the way you like even like sitting on it, like it's just like the way everybody processes their emotions is different. The way they feel their emotions is different. Even hunger, people
Right.
feel hunger in like different ways.
No, yeah.
So it's like,
That's true. No, yes. So, well, that's gonna wrap up the podcast for today. I hope that you heard some topics that you may find yourself struggling in and realize like it's not that deep and just
and there's
relieve yourself
time.
from
Like,
stress.
honestly,
And yeah, there's time. Like we have is time, honestly, time to learn, to grow. And there's no need for us to continuously and constantly put these unrealistic standards on our head and in our mind, thinking that we have to abide by it. You know what I'm saying? So till next time, thank you, Catherine, and thank you,
no,
Rafa,
thank you
for
for inviting
coming.
us.
And yes, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.